June 6, 1944. The date that forever changed the course of history. D-Day, the day the Allied forces stormed the beaches of Normandy and fought back against Nazi tyranny. Thousands of soldiers, sailors, and airmen were involved in this massive assault, but what often gets lost in the statistics and strategy are the personal stories. Stories of bravery, stories of survival, and stories of men who witnessed hell on earth yet still carried on. One of those men, the last surviving D-Day veteran, is still alive today. And his untold story, a story that has been locked away for decades, is one we're finally going to share. This is the untold story of what he saw on that day, a day that not only changed the outcome of the war, but also changed him. Stay with us as we dive into the heroic, gut-wrenching tale of survival, sacrifice, and courage. It was 1944, and the war had already been raging for 5 long years. The Allies were on the offensive, but the Nazis were far from beaten. Their grip on Europe was still strong, and they weren't about to give up without one final, desperate fight. The plan, Operation Overlord, a military campaign designed to break the Nazi stronghold on Western Europe by landing Allied forces on the beaches of Normandy. It was an audacious plan, a plan that would cost thousands of lives before it succeeded. But the stakes were higher than ever. Victory was crucial, and the success of the invasion was a matter of life and death for every man involved. But none of them knew what they were walking into. And for one young soldier who had just joined the 101st Airborne Division, his training would be tested in ways he never imagined. He had no idea that his name would one day be associated with one of the most intense moments in military history. Before the bombs fell, before the blood was spilled, he was just a young man, eager to do his part for the country. His name was, insert veteran's name, and like many others, he enlisted with a sense of duty and patriotism. He was just 18 years old when he joined the 101st Airborne Division, one of the most elite units in the U.S. Army. He trained for months in England, preparing for what would be the largest amphibious invasion in history. The young man, full of energy and optimism, had no idea that when the jump orders came through, when he would land on the shores of Normandy, his life and the fate of the world would change forever. Every soldier was ready to give everything for this mission, but what our veteran would soon realize was that no amount of training could prepare him for the brutality that awaited him, the brutality of D-Day, the brutality of war. At 6:30 hours on June 6th, the Allied assault began. Over 150,000 men hit the beaches of Normandy, with thousands of soldiers landing at 5 separate beaches: Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juno, and Sword. Our veteran was among the first wave to land on Utah Beach, a beach that would become a living nightmare. Imagine, if you can, the chaos. Thousands of soldiers under heavy fire, scrambling for cover as bombs explode overhead. And for our veteran, it was only the beginning. In the first moments after landing, he saw men fall around him. Young men, just like him, were being torn apart by enemy fire, yet he had no choice but to keep moving forward. Through the smoke and the confusion, he found himself face to face with something that he had only ever seen in training films, the harsh reality of war. But he pressed on, knowing that if they didn't succeed here, the war could be lost. One of the first things he recalls is the deafening noise, the constant roar of artillery, and the pounding rhythm of machine gun fire. It was unlike anything he had ever imagined, and amid this chaos, our veteran witnessed the death of his comrades in heartbreaking detail. One soldier, a young man who had been by his side during the jump, was struck down just yards from him. In the confusion, he could barely make sense of what was happening, but one thing was clear. Survival was a game of chance. The soldier next to him could be fine one moment and gone the next. But our veteran didn't give in to fear. He couldn't. The success of the entire invasion rested on what they did next. Every soldier knew the importance of their mission, to secure the beach and push inland. And for our veteran, the fight for Normandy had only just begun. By the end of the day, the Allies had secured Utah Beach, but the fight was far from over. The road to victory was paved with suffering and sacrifice. For our veteran, each moment was a battle, not just with the Germans, but with himself. The fear of death, the physical exhaustion, and the mental strain of war were wearing him down. But through it all, he never lost sight of what they were fighting for. As the days passed, our veteran saw the toll the war was taking on both sides. One moment, he'd be fighting alongside a group of men, and the next, they'd be gone. Some were killed instantly, others wounded beyond recognition. But amidst all this, there was also heroism, acts of selflessness that stood out among the chaos. One night, during a covert operation, our veteran led a small team to sabotage a German ammunition depot. The mission was a success, but not without close calls. He remembers creeping through the underbrush, hearing the distant German patrols, and praying that their plan would work. When the explosion ripped through the night sky, he knew they had made a difference. But the real turning point came on June 14th, 8 days after the invasion. The Allies launched a major raid to disrupt the German supply lines and weaken their hold on the region. Our veteran was once again thrust into the heart of the fight. This time, the stakes were higher than ever. If they succeeded, the Germans would be forced to retreat. If they failed, the war could take a deadly turn. As they made their way into the heart of the enemy stronghold, our veteran felt a rush of adrenaline. This was their chance to hit the Germans where it hurt. But it wasn't without risks. The raid was a tight operation, and one wrong move could mean death for everyone involved. But they pressed on, taking out key targets and crippling the German defense. The raid succeeded, and the German forces began to retreat. For our veteran, it was one of the most important victories of the war. With the Germans in retreat, the battle for Normandy was finally over. But the cost was immense. The land was scarred, and the bodies of fallen soldiers lay everywhere. Our veteran, now battle-worn and weary, returned home a hero. But the war was far from over. His experiences in Normandy would stay with him forever. The images of those who didn't make it, the comrades lost in battle, haunted him. No medal or honor could ever erase the memories of that day. But for him, the real victory was survival. He had made it through D-Day, and though the war raged on, he carried that victory with him. Today, our veteran is the last living soldier who witnessed the carnage and courage of D-Day firsthand. His story is a testament to the strength of the human spirit, to the sacrifices made for freedom, and to the legacy of those who fought for a better world. His untold story is now a part of history, a story that reminds us to never forget the sacrifices of those who came before us. We owe our freedom to the men who fought on those beaches. Their courage, their pain, and their bravery paved the way for the world we know today. Thank you for joining us in remembering the sacrifices of the men who fought on D-Day. Their stories need to be heard. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories from history that you won't find in the textbooks. And remember, their stories are our stories.